Good, we're back on. Hi, everybody. Or whoever is there. It must be the middle of the night for some of you. But let's see. Let's just see. We're continuing with our study of motion in the causal body and everything. Motion in the causal body and everything else. Everything else. All right, so we were discussing the idea that Saturn has a connection, this cosmic moon, and astrologically that must be a very interesting thing to know the location of this cosmic moon, because it's got to be a source of really retrogressive energy, just the way our moon in our horoscope. Just think how it works. Our moon in our horoscope is important for each of us as an individual. What must the cosmic moon be in the horoscope of greater entities? Even, let's say, our planetary logos, the heavenly man. What must the cosmic moon be for him? Okay. So anyway, there's a triple stream of energy from this cosmic moon. It is obviously colored by the third ray. And because it's the third ray that is really the retrogressive factor, it pulls backwards. And it's the alignment. There's the third star in the Big Dipper, which is out of alignment. And it's probably tied up with one of those stars in the Pleiades. He says that cosmic evil is the result of the alignment of one of the stars in the Big Dipper, one of the stars in the Pleiades, and our solar system. So maybe it's this star Maya that we're talking about as related to the third ray, the one who is veiled, So anyway, the old commentary is expressing a relationship between the cosmic moon, our solar system, with itself as a kind of bridge, you might say, a kind of a bridge. So we've talked about a certain Deva group that is connected with the monastic permanent atom and with the energies of the spiritual triad in its lowest aspect. And let's see, how was this seen? Which uses the jewel in the lotus at its focal point. Okay, let's see. Certain other influences, yes. The permanent atom, from the permanent atom of the spiritual triad, certain groups of Deva's lives, they are not lunar Petries, but they have a direct connection with what is called the cosmic moon. And this is particularly in the monastic aspect of the spiritual triad. See, basically, it's the same in our own energy system, isn't it? The third aspect of divinity, which is expressed through our personality, is in a way refusing to be aligned with the second aspect of divinity, which is our soul nature. It's all a 2-3 drama. And even on our own planet, it's the 2-3 drama. It's the second ray soul of our planet and its third ray personality. It's repeated in our particular individual system, and it's repeated in the incarnations of our solar logos. We're in a big heart center solar logoic second ray incarnation, and we still have to contend with the karmic drag of a third ray incarnation which has not yet been outlived in our present solar system. The so-called primordial ray is very strong still, and the divine ray has not yet taken over to the fullest extent. So our solar logos is in a big crisis too between those same two rays. It goes on every level. And of course, love is the answer. Love fused with intelligence, Venus, not love different or distinct from or separated from intelligence, That's the problem. The cleavage between intelligence and love is the problem. Okay, so here's the stuff from the old commentary. Some very interesting things. These sons of mind clung to the old and dying form and refused to leave their mother. It's always bad business when you refuse to leave your mother, no matter on what level. You know how it is. Having a 10-year-old son at home is one thing. If he's 35, it's another. Okay. They chose to pass into dissolution with her. But a younger son, Saturn, sought to rescue his brothers, which meant, of course, he was around in the previous solar system. And to this end, he built a triple bridge between the old and the new. This is the redemptive function of Saturn. This bridge persists and forms a path whereon escape is possible. Now, of course, the implication is that the Antakarana is a line of escape, or that the bridge between the soul and personality and soul, is a line of escape. You need a bridge to cross in order to enter a higher point of tension, which our solar system is, and which the soul is compared to our personality. We need a bridge, and that's what we do in meditation. We build a bridge of escape from one point of tension to another. Some escaped and came to the help of the incarnating sons of mind who had left the mother for the father. So he's talking about these manasic devas. And, it's very interesting that since the causal body is built upon the manasic permanent atom, and since these devas are connected with the manasic permanent atom, we can see how they could help in the building of the causal body. The greater gulf was bridged. The lesser gulf persisted and must be bridged by the living sons of mind themselves. And that's us. There was a great gulf. I suppose somehow these lives were brought over and helped to be a part of the spiritual triad, whether of, I suppose, of the human being, but maybe in other higher ways as well. But we are still left with a bridge, or the lack of a bridge, which exists probably because of the moon chain failure. See, there's two types of failures. In one way, the earlier solar system was not a tremendous success. There was a rebellion that occurred on that solar system and has the same, probably a principle of retardation was present there as well. Just the way the principle of retardation is present because of the moon chain failure. It's just on a larger scale. So now our task is to bridge the gulf which exists between our lunar nature and our solar nature, and even more so between our lunar nature and triadal nature, and there these devas can help. Sorry. All right. And so it says this latter clause refers to the building of the Antaskarana. We are left with some incomplete business. There is a non-continuity which exists because of unfinished work. And that's another definition of karma. Unfinished business, unfinished work. And because things were not completed as they should have been completed, the solar angels were called in for a particular piece of redemptive work to help create that bridge. In other words, setting an example so we could build the Antakarana. Otherwise, we are told that without the intervention of the solar angels, we would be farther behind in our development than the most primitive groups are now on our planet. So maybe just millions and millions of years maybe 16, 17 million years or more have been saved to humanity by the intervention of the solar angels, setting us up so we could build the bridge ourselves and finish the unfinished business left behind. That's why this building of the Antakarana turns out to be a very important task, because we are at oneing, forthraying, reuniting the different parts of ourselves, which were left in an incomplete, separated condition. Now remember, one of the sins of the third ray is separativeness or separateness. And this is what we find on the planet today, that there are many groups. I'm always amused when I see, I follow advertising for some reason because I like to analyze the psyche behind the advertisement. And I'm just amazed and maybe appalled by how many times the advertiser appeals to this exclusive opportunity, this exclusive card, this exclusive this and that. If they offered something inclusive, nobody would buy it, because what's buying is the elemental in you that wants to be separative and exclusive. So, we know what kind of forces are behind that kind of thinking. The energy transmitted from the monastic permanent atom of each incarnating jiva. The jiva is the monad in extension. The jiva is the monad who has descended into the lower worlds. Really, we can say that the monad is the pilgrim, but in a way it's the jiva who represents the monad. The energy transmitted from the monastic permanent atom of each incarnating jiva, its union with its reflection, the energy of the mental unit, and the triple stream of force thus created on the mental plane, has its planetary reflection in the relation of Saturn to another planetary scheme, and the three rings, which are energy rings, and symbols of an inner verity. Well, sometimes I wonder about this other planet, and I wonder if it's not the Earth, frankly. There's a very close relation of Saturn to the Earth. Do we know why that relationship exists? That Saturn-Earth relation? Well, sure, it would necessarily have to do with karma, but let's just say there is a third ray existence which employs Saturn as its mental body and Earth as its physical body. So Saturn and Earth are part of one particular being who is a great third ray being. Probably he's the Brahma of our solar system. And of course Mars is in there too, as the astral body. You may have remembered us talking about this, but right in Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2, right around page 99, this is dealt with. These three great entities, and I think, they are pictured for us right here in this map. See, here's the Solar Logos. And here are three entities called the three persons of the Logoic Trinity. And each one of them expresses through three planets, with probably Mercury as a go-between or a free agent. So this one that is involved with active intelligence consists, I believe, of expression through Saturn, Mars, and the Earth. And when it comes to the big map on page 344 of Cosmic Fire, these three entities, I believe, are represented right here as the three entities on the first plane the logoic plane. And it's called the three logoi. So it's the first, second, and third persons of the logoic trinity. Okay. Now, where were we? Okay. So the energy transmitted from the monastic permanent atom of each incarnating jiva, its union with its reflection, which could be considered the lower triad, the energy of the mental unit, or maybe its reflection is the mental unit in a way, and the triple stream of force thus created on the mental plane. And here is the triple stream. Here is one way to look at the triple stream of force. Like this. 1, 2, 3, all on the mental plane. The triangular, threefold antikarana. All of this is on the mental plane. See, is the antikarana simply a line, or is it a triangle? And in a way, it's a triangle because it has three parts to it. One part of the antikarana you build when you're simply meditating and you want to contact the soul. Another part of the antikarana DK has given us in the methods of intention, imagination, projection, whatever the next one is, invocation, evocation, and so forth. Stabilization, resurrection. But this part of the antikarana, which we've had some meditations on, is not much used because it means you are a soul, you are meditating as a soul on the higher mental plane, and you are contacting the spiritual triad from that position. That's a different method. Antikarana is a triangle. Okay. So that's it talks then about the triple stream of force created on the mental plane. Okay. Okay, now there's further, he's giving us all of the energies which are connected with the egoic lotus and where they come from. The three rings are symbols of an inner truth. The inner truth is that there's a triple stream of energy coming from a previous solar system via Saturn, of which the three rings are somehow the symbol. Yeah. Everything is perfectly rational. It really works out. Everything is symbolic if we could read the symbol. That's the thing. Oh, well, DK is teaching us how to read the symbol. Okay. I'm so sorry about this cough. I'm sure it won't be with me for any more than 5 days. Oh, yes. Yes, if the law of distribution works correctly. Remember, Aquarius is not only group consciousness, it represents epidemics. It really does. It spreads whatever's around. Okay. Okay. Energy also pours in upon the knowledge petals from the egoic group, or from the aggregated knowledge petals of all the other lotuses in the group affiliated with any particular solar angel. These groups have been earlier dealt with. Okay, so this is what you might call horizontal spiritual telepathy. In other words, we are in soul groups together. And what we do as souls affects everybody else that's in that group. And the knowledge petals of all affect the knowledge petals of each. So certainly we're not traveling the path alone. And anybody's success is our success too, because it does reach us, and similarly with the opposite. Now, let's go further. Energy is transmitted also to the petals. See, in a way, it seems like he can't quite decide what he's doing here. It's me, I know, that can't quite decide what he's doing here. But he seems to be talking about the knowledge petals, but then he takes digressions and talks about other petals. But basically, this is about energy coming into the knowledge petals. Thank you, Martha. But don't throw anything away. Just, okay, Okay, energy is transmitted also to the petals via the groups and emanations from those planetary schemes and streams of force which form the outer petals of that great center which is our solar system, and which we are told is seen from higher planes as a 12-petaled lotus. Well, each planetary scheme is a lotus in this 12-petaled lotus. Now, we have a little problem. Our planetary enumeration of common planets now stands at 10. That's not a 12-petaled lotus. However, I believe, and I think Douglas Baker suggested this, I think he's correct, and maybe DK said it too, that the sun veils a second-ray non-sacred planet, and the moon veils a fourth-ray non-sacred planet. That will give us the 12 we need, plus the 115 extra whatever, and all the asteroids and all the rest. But we will have that 12-petaled lotus that we need. So energy is transmitted to these petals via, now what are those outer three? In a way, it would seem natural that Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn would be the synthesizing petals of this 12-petaled solar systemic lotus. So what are the outer ones? And I think the non-sacred planets, the three of them that we know about, would be appropriate. I think, thank you so much, Martha. I think that the Earth, Mars, and Pluto would be appropriate for these three outer petals of the knowledge petals. Earth, Mars, Pluto. I'm sorry? No, there are 4 tiers, 4 circles. And there's 3 in each circle, presumably. Just like in our egoic lotus, right? So here's 3, 3, 3, and 3. 4 tiers or circles of 3 each. Now, it would be very interesting, if the moon and the sun veiled 2 planets which took the place of petal 4 and 5. Think of it. Go by astrological sign. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Moon, 4th sign, 4th petal. Maybe. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. Leo, 5th petal, veiling an unknown, non-sacred, second-ray planet. So I think the moon and the sun and what they veil are in a very good position to take the place of petal 4 and petal 5 in our solar system. And then, of course, we have other non-sacred and sacred planets. We have basically 7 more after that. The synthesizing planets in the inner circle, and then we have to distribute 4 planets from petal 6, 7, 8, and 9. How we would do that, I'm not sure, but maybe according to Soul Ray. Well, I've never thought about this before. It just came up in my mind now. But we have unaccounted for Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Vulcan. So we have to find a way to distribute them as the other four petals. Because the inner petals, now I'm talking on the level of the solar system now, right? I'm not talking about the individual. I'm saying this is a solar systemic 12-petaled lotus, of which the three inner petals are Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn. So then, where does Venus belong? Where does Mercury belong? I'm beginning to think, where do they belong? Okay. Okay. Maybe. Possibility. Just a possibility. Speculation, okay? Venus is the sixth petal, because after all, it is the solar plexus of the solar logos. Mercury is the seventh petal, representing mentality in that third ray position. Jupiter the eighth, possibly Vulcan the ninth, with its will emphasis and its power at the third initiation. Because Vulcan is a hidden planet, which is very powerful at the third initiation. And when the ninth petal opens, Vulcan is then activated, or maybe its activation gives us the third initiation. But has our solar logos taken the third initiation? Yes and no. Which one? There are two lines of initiation. Has our planetary logos taken the third initiation? No. Has our planetary logos taken the second initiation? Yes and no. Yes and no. It's taking the fourth initiation in a certain series, and has not yet taken the second initiation in a greater series. So all of this would fit together in this way, only we would have to account for, that makes a lot of sense if I really think about it. Let's just say petal number 1 in the solar logos could well be the Earth. Petal number 2 could well be Mars. Petal number 3 could well be Pluto, a very mental planet. Could be. But anyway, this is, way beyond the possibility of verification. So the only thing that it's valuable for is it makes you think, according to the law of correspondences. And if we exercise our thinking faculty, who knows, one day it may even work. Okay, so energy is transmitted also to the petals via the groups from, let's say, Earth, Mars, and Pluto, the three definite non-sacred planets in our solar system. Also, they rule 2 out of the 3 lower chakras of the solar logos. I'm not sure where to put Pluto exactly. DK connects it with the solar plexus, but also with the base of the spine. Anyway, Earth is supposed to be the base of the spine center of the solar logos. It's divided into 4 sections. That's the symbol for Earth. It's also the symbol for the base of the spine center. Mars is clearly the sacral center. As for the solar plexus, one day, I think it is Venus at this present time. These streams, do not emanate from the 7 sacred planets, but from other planetary bodies within the solar ring-pass knot. Streams of force from the sacred planets play upon the central tier of petals, which are the love petals. Herein lies a hint to the wise student. Oops. and a clue to the nature of the lower aspect of the solar angel. What is the lower aspect of the solar angel? Probably that which is connected with the knowledge petals. And there's even a lower aspect than that. And what is it? Even lower than the knowledge petals. And it still is connected with the solar angel. Because where is the atomic triangle located? At the base of the egoic lotus, correct? So the three permanent atoms, so to speak, the mental unit included, are still within the egoic lotus. So the members of the atomic triangle and the outer group of petals both relate to the lower aspect of the solar angel. Okay, so here it says the sacred planets play upon the central tier of petals. So is he implying that they do not play upon the sacrifice tier? Okay. I don't know. Because we do need something to play upon the inner petals, and I think the synthesizing planets really have to do that. Because those inner petals, one of which opens up at every initiation a little bit, they are synthesizing petals. Synthesizing planets, synthesizing petals, it makes sense. There's a connection. Okay. Are you feeling the effects of lunch yet? I just want to know, you know. Apparently we have just finished the knowledge petals. Are we any the wiser for it? We'll see when we have our review at the end of the day. Okay. The only other thing I could think of, yeah, it would be problematic. We could say that the three logoi played upon the synthesizing petals and that the sun itself represented the jewel in the lotus. Anyway, one of the things we're pretty sure about is that non-sacred planets are involved with the outer group of petals. That is our lunar Petri nature. It is the non-sacred part of our nature. It is that which we are currently trying to transcend, and we are certainly not wanting to be working in that outer group of petals. We are beyond that, certainly at this point. Okay. Well, are these different? Are these different? Is the hint different from the clue, or is the hint also a clue? You see, the question is, can 10 become 12? Can 12 become 10? See, we have to find, DK tells us in esoteric astrology, we have to find 12 planets because it is a 12-petaled lotus. What are these 12 planets? Well, certainly 2 of them are missing right now, and if you believe the astronomers, Pluto has recently been demoted. On the other hand, I do think Pluto will have the last word. If anybody has ever experienced this demoted planet in their horoscope, you have. Yes, and even hierarchical rulers. Yes, exactly. But remember, they are gods. Every one of them is a god. Well, they are separated by their degree of development. If they have not taken the 5th cosmic initiation, they are not sacred, but they are gods. You know, in other words, long ago, they went through the stage that man is now passing through as a master even. Many Mahamanvantaras ago, their consciousness was that of what a master is now. So even though they are non-sacred, they are immense intelligences. So for our purposes, they're all gods, and they can rule whatever in our system, I think. All right, now we've graduated. We are now out of the hall of ignorance. That took all morning. Woo. All right. You're not, well, your modesty becomes you. How about the hall of learning? The love wisdom petals. And, while in our own case, not every love wisdom petal may be completely unfolded, let's just say they are certainly, if we've taken the first initiation, then the fifth petal is completely unfolded. And if we're taking the sixth initiation, then the sixth petal is completely unfolded, even though the area of work is operating in the seventh and eighth petals. Well, I really think this is going to be a tremendous science for the future, to really make the understanding of evolution scientific. Exactly where does a human being stand? What is the inner energy display going on here? What does it reflect? How does life activity enhance or subdue this inner energy expression? What an amazing relationship. Right now we are really living in a veiled world. All right, but it's coming. And the power of the fifth ray in the Aquarian age is going to bring it out. So we need this fifth ray, not simply applied in a materialistic manner or to build weapons and all the rest of it, which is an abuse of it. We need this fifth ray to penetrate the mysteries of the inner worlds and what's actually happening there. Now, you'll probably find, and maybe you already have found, that Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater, I think they both had fifth ray minds. This is my impression. I think they were both standing at the third degree, probably. And you need that ray. At least generically, you need the fifth ray at the third degree. Whether it's technically the ray of your mind, you are under the influence of that fifth ray. So the next few hundred years, with the increasing power of the fifth ray, will see us knowing the terrain of the inner worlds much more than we presently do. Okay, the love wisdom petals. The streams of energy playing upon and through the second tier of petals closely resemble those already dealt with, but originate in differing groups of lives, solar and lunar. So, in other words, what he's been telling us is that different petals are animated by different groups of lives from below and from above, and he's discriminating now between what animates the knowledge petals from the love petals. The animation of the knowledge petals should long ago have been past, and our work now is in fully unfolding the love petals. The lowest form of energy reaching this second circle emanates from the lower self via the astral permanent atom and the second petal of the outer tier. Interesting. So one of the points animating the knowledge petals was the knowledge petal of the outer tier, and now this animates the love petals. It's the love petal of the knowledge tier. That's the lowest. It is transmuted astral energy. Do you have the experience of transmuting astral energy? Have you ever transmuted astral energy? We all hope so, don't we? For instance, what can anger become and still carry the first ray? will, determination, fortitude, non-compliance with weakness. What can fear become? Fear based on oversensitivity can become. Yes, in general, a form of positive sensitivity which does not run away. A kind of sensitivity which stands its ground. You know, worry is the same kind of thing, can be a forward-looking attitude where you have the apprehension of what the future looks like without the debilitating conflict. All these lower emotions do have a higher counterpart. What is one of the planets which, astrally applied, is very good at transmuting lower astral energy? As a matter of fact, Mars needs to be transmuted. Although you're close because it's a pair with Mars, I think it's Venus. Yeah, because think of it. Venus is a major ruler of the second initiation. It applies the fifth ray to clarify the glamorous situation, to harmonize the emotions, to bring peace to them. And look, what does your egoic lotus do with your life experience? It kind of extracts it upward into the causal body. It takes the essence of the experience and renders it into a positive component of the causal body. That's what Venus does. Venus is that upward extracting essence. They call it the fifth essence, quintessence, fifth essence, quintessence. So the quintessence goes into your causal body. And that's just out of raw experience. And Venus is what is doing that. Venus is lifting those experiences. It's finding the value in those experiences and lifting them up into the causal body. So Venus is the great transmuting agent. Another planet of transmutation, of course, is Uranus. It's a major alchemical planet involved with uplifting and transforming. Okay. So this energy animates this second circle, and it is transmuted astral energy. It is more powerful than its correspondence in the first tier, owing to the inherent nature of the astral body and the fact that it is augmented by the energy of the outer tier itself, meaning if something is already in place, it's going to add to the next process. So, the second process does not occur in isolation. It is strengthened by the fact that the first process has already occurred, meaning that knowledge exists. This is one of the factors which brings about the more rapid progress made towards the close of the evolutionary period. Much more rapid, indeed. And what is it about our solar system that ties in with what is being said here about the more powerful nature of this type of second energy? What kind of solar system do we have? Secondary solar system. And what vehicles are involved in this solar system? Vehicles. Which bodies of the Solar Logos are particularly activated? It's the astral body first. Astral Buddhic. We said to live in an astral Buddhic solar system. Our solar logos cosmically is not yet mentally polarized, whatever that means. Because obviously, compared to a human being, this is an immense intelligence. What solar logos that we do know of is mentally polarized? Solar logos. Did you say Sirius? If you didn't, you should have. Okay. It's Sirius. It's Sirius, which has achieved this kind of light through the fifth ray, which is only waiting to happen with our solar system. So, we live in an astral Buddhic solar system, and our astral body is tremendously powerful as a result. Not only the astral body of the Solar Logos, but our own individual astral body is very potent compared to the other vehicles. And notice, and I know you know this, but if you look at the map, you will see that on the lower planes, it is the only one of the vehicles which is not divided. Here is the division on the mental plane. Here is the division on the physical plane. Where is the division on the astral plane? It isn't. And you know why this is? This is really interesting. It's because the Lord of our planetary astral plane, called Varuna, is the most advanced of the Deva Lords who are ensouling these planes. Varuna is more advanced than our local planetary Agni or Kashiti. And so that's what makes for a more unified, integrated astral body in the case of individuals. So, you can't help but influence the fate and life of those who are below you and those who are above you. In this case, Varuna, there's a connection between the astral Buddhic nature of our solar logos, the being called Varuna, and our own astral body. So it's very potent, and the big wrestling match for all of us occurs at the second initiation, when this unified astral body has to be dealt with, subdued, purified, reoriented, and so forth. And that job is left to the energies of the planets Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. Okay. So the inherent nature of the astral body is very strong because of our solar logos and Varuna. Okay. There are certain streams of force in the evolution of the monad which might be regarded as embodying for it the line of least resistance, and they are specifically the following, beginning with the lowest. Okay. Now, you can work with all kinds of energies, you as a human being. But if you begin to work with those energies which are not the line of least resistance for you, it's going to take a lot longer. So it pays off to know who we are and what lines of energy are amicable to us, so we don't waste our time. He said, for many years a statesman has been training to be a statesman. For many lives a teacher has been training to be a teacher. It doesn't serve for them to switch in midstream because they haven't developed the capacity. So what is the line of least resistance for each one of us? This is what we're trying to figure out. Okay, so in terms of the evolution of the monad, which is a unit of life within our sun. The monad is that which finds its home within the sun. That's a quote-unquote from DK, Initiation Human and Solar. Each one of us is that which finds its home within the sun as a monad. So in a way, when all the other planets dissolve, where do we go? At least temporarily. Back to the sun. Not necessarily to the outer sun, but to the spiritual sun. Okay, so what are these lines of least resistance? Emanations from the vegetable kingdom. In what way is the vegetable kingdom connected with the 246 line? It simply is, isn't it? It has 3 rays manifesting through it. The 6 is the stem. The 4 is the color of the flower. The 2 is the perfume. Perfume. Yeah, okay. Astral energy. The energy of the second circle of petals. Buddhic force. The activity of the second logos, planetary or solar, which is Venus in a way. And of course, our solar logos presently. What is the personality ray of our solar logos? That was it in the last solar system. It now is just 2-2. 2-2. Last solar system, 2-3. Present solar system, 2-2. Next solar system, 2-1. So we see our monad, which is located on what plane? 2, right? Our monad has got a very 2 bias, doesn't it? You kind of wonder if in the next solar system the monad will not be located on plane number 1. There's a very second ray line of energy here in terms of the development of our monad, and people who are progressing along this line find it easier in our solar system than in the previous or in the future. This is, of course, only true of this solar system, being the system, what a great name, of regenerative love. And well might it be, because there's a lot to regenerate. Coming from the cosmic moon, that hangover of a solar system. You ever wake from solar systemic phrelia only to find out that your former self was still hanging around? This is what's happened to our poor solar logos. Things don't just disappear. Like Master Moria said, he says, you should not worry about losing the past. It's impossible for man to get rid of his tail. Master Moria has a lot of these animal-like analogies. He says if you want to get people's attention about the need for their evolution, compare them to an animal. He actually does say this. And apparently he does this because it challenges people's pride of pedigree. They want to emerge from the animal kingdom, and so when you point out animal behaviors, they hasten towards the opposite. Aesop, yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, very interesting. Aesop's fables, yeah. I don't know, but boy, it certainly made the point, didn't it? When you put human characteristics into the animal, and animal characteristics into the human, you see suddenly in a better, clearer light, Yeah. Well, Maury is usually talking about unflattering behaviors. He made a frontal attack on first, second, and third rate types. He said, to the third-rate types, you rats, you've chewed many a book without improving your nature. He says to the second-rate types, you doves, you've forced many to feed you while you were, hanging around the church. You lions, you killed the messenger on his way to doing good. Seek reparation. But, it gets your attention, doesn't it? I mean, it certainly gets my attention. So some of these teachers are just very effective, They've learned what doesn't work and they've learned what does work. The very important thing is to get the attention of your student. The old story about the Buddha, he sat there in front of his students for quite a long time. And they didn't know what in the world he was doing, just sitting there. Nothing was happening. And so then at the end, he said, okay, how many times have I changed the folds in my garment? And they were just appalled. 2, 3, 5, whatever. It was over 100 times that he had done that. He was just testing their degree of perception, their acuteness, Everything was a lesson there. They learned how unobservant they were. Oh, those teachers, they tolerated little, Was it a story with, was it Sri Yukteswar and Yogananda? He caught him dreaming about his future at a moment when he was supposed to be listening. He just dismissed him, reprimanded him. The Buddha caught an errant thought in one of his students, his go to the lake and bathe, just like that. Just the tiniest little thing. So when you're actually dealing with the real thing, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room, to use a third-ray analogy. You can't get out of it. You can't get around it. You just have to face it. So anyway, we're in a system of regenerative love. Another form of influencing energy originates in the inner circle of petals. It seems that every circle is affected by the inner circles. So the knowledge petals are affected by the love petals and the sacrifice petals, and this is the love petals affected by the inner circle, which is the focal point of force for the monad considered as Atma. In Atma and in spiritual will, there's a lot of sacrifice involved, isn't there? Is not will sacrifice in a way? We've often been told that will and sacrifice are equivalent terms. In other words, if we think we're doing the divine will simply because we're determined and we're bound to do it and we're forcing ourselves to do it, that's not will, right? Not really. So, the monad can be considered as buddhi, as manas, but here it's considered as atma. In the monad is will, wisdom, and activity. Will is atma, wisdom is buddhi, activity is higher manas. Do you hear something? I hear a vibration. Not especially. Somebody out there doing some Vulcan thing. So anyway, another form of influence on the second petals, second tier, is from the monad, considered as Atma. You can consider the monad in 3 ways. It must be pointed out that the streams of force which form the petals of will have a dynamic activity, and when in action, produce very rapid unfoldment. Well, I pointed that out this morning. How those last 30 or 20 lives, just like a snap of the fingers compared to 21 million years of evolution or longer. So when the will gets going, things move. And you know, it's very interesting. There's a peculiar thing that happens at the second initiation. A conflict between Vulcan and Mars, you might say. How would we characterize this? Will takes over from desire. Selfishness, to a degree, ends. A degree of unselfishness takes its place at the second degree. Mars is down, Vulcan is up. So from that time on, at the second degree, you are beginning to learn the curriculum of will. And at the third degree, it gets confirmed with Vulcan and Mars in conjunction. Mars representing the personality, Vulcan representing the soul. It says, Mars and the moon veiling a hidden planet are active at the third degree, producing a tremendous conflict. So as I've sometimes said, watch out for Mars oppose your sun, Mars square your sun, because that sun might be Vulcan. Lately, at the university, our Vulcan expert showed up again after 10 years. He orbited in. And he looks like a guy from Vulcan. He really does. And he knows more about Vulcan than anyone I know about. And he said, well, I figured out how to find Vulcan in your horoscope. Well, we're still experimenting with what he said, okay? But he says, Vulcan is said to be hidden by the moon. Okay, take the moon and add 15 degrees to it consistently until you get into the vicinity of the sun. And just make sure that it's not more than 15 degrees away from the sun. Like, for instance, let's say I have the moon at 15 Aquarius. So I add 15 to 15 Aquarius, I get 28. Is that correct? No, it's 30. It's 0. Then I add 15 and I get 15 Pisces. Then I add 15 and I get 0 Aries. Then I add 15 and I get 15 Aries. My sun's at 10. My Vulcan's at 15 Aries. That's what he says. So each one of you could take 15 degrees from your moon and keep adding until it becomes, or subtracting if you will, if it's closer, until it comes into the vicinity of your sun, he says, to find the Vulcan position. He takes it literally that Vulcan is hidden behind the moon. Anyway, Mars and that Vulcan position, or Mars and the sun, could set up this kind of conflict between will and desire, because Mars is desire and Vulcan is will. Have you had such a conflict in your life? Ever? Will and desire. Very interesting, isn't it? Desire wants to go in a certain direction, and will says no. Or maybe yes, when it aligns. It's quite a conflict because one is so urgent and the other has to be so firm. So that's what DK means by, those nice second-rate words that I'll always remember. Whip yourself into shape. Startling from a second-rate master. Okay. Anyway, very rapid unfoldment under the will. It is the inner of the two types of force. Their mutual interplay provides the necessary stimulus and results in the opening of the bud and the revelation of the jewel. So there are two types of inner force. One is of the sacrifice petals and the other is of the synthesis petals. Anyway, the synthesis petals and sacrifice petals are interplaying. And the revelation of the jewel, the full revelation of the jewel, comes at what point in our development? Full revelation of the jewel in the lotus. After the third and right before the fourth. That is perfection. Remember the city of perfection on the fourth level of the atmic plane. So this perfection, of course, is much higher in a way than the fourth initiation, but still that is the perfection of the egoic lotus with the full revelation of the monadic color blazing through the jewel in the lotus. And as we said, that monadic color may be twofold, related to the lower and the higher levels of the monadic ray. You know, we are so fortunate in a way that, we're just so fortunate that Master DK has taken the time to reveal these astonishing things in such great and elaborated detail and such logical coherence. Because, you know, you have to test things according to the law of correspondences. We can imagine that things occur in many different ways, but if they don't work out rigorously according to the law of correspondences, then something's not right. And this is where our discrimination comes into the picture. It takes a long time before we can see the truth, know what it is, recognize it. Anyway, they say the solar angels saved us millions of years. And I wonder, when there's a revelation of a master assimilated by his students, how many thousands and thousands of years might be saved by that revelation, compared to one where one would be if one was just fishing around looking for an understanding of life. So I feel a lot of gratitude, you know, when I understand this. The other types of energy find their correspondence with those already enumerated. Actually, we should make charts of this, where the energies come into every circle of petals from what sources. Okay. But I seek only to mention one of them. That one which reaches the second tier of love petals via the Buddhic permanent atom. Now remember, we did look at the map. We're discussing where the tiers of the egoic lotus are being fed from. We looked at the map and we noticed, here that every single petal of the egoic lotus is fed from the permanent atoms of the spiritual triad. 3 green lines, 3 blue lines, 3 red lines, all from the spiritual triad. And not only that, there's a 4th line of energy coming in from the monad directly. So 4 streams of force are involved. The monadic energy going through 3 of those streams. All right. So there is a stream of energy reaching the second tier of love petals via the Buddhic permanent atom. Here it is. These. Blue to blue. The energy thus originating is of a peculiarly interesting kind, being the basic energy of all manifestation, because all manifests from the fourth cosmic ether, and the sum total of the forces which form the sevenfold heart of the physical sun. Wow. And which are located within its sheltering luminosity. Immediately, what is behind the luminosity of the sun is the question that comes out. Anyway, how many fold is our heart center? Our heart. Fourfold. Fourfold heart. Fourfold physical heart. Actually, we have a 12-fold heart center. But he's not talking about a center. It's the heart itself, the physical correspondence. And it's sevenfold for the Solar Logos. Very interesting. So the Buddhic permanent atom is involved in manifestation because the etheric plane starts the manifestation process and it works out on the three lower planes. Okay. And this energy is the sum total of forces which form the sevenfold heart of the physical sun. I wonder, are there 7 layers of matter? Are there 7 types of matter in the heart of the physical sun? They are in their turn transmitters of the life impulses of the heart of the central spiritual sun, so that we have a direct graded chain of transmitting energies. Okay, what is the heart center of the monad? We have our 3 periodical vehicles. What is the heart center of the monad? It's one of those nice after lunch questions. It's the soul center, the egoic center, the causal body on the higher mental plane. So the analogy to the central spiritual sun in man is what? In man, the central spiritual sun is the central spiritual sun is the blank of the Solar Logos, of which right, it's the monad, right? There's a direct analogy between the central spiritual sun and the monad, correct? Okay. Then what is there a direct analogy between on the soul level? The heart of the, it would be the egoic nature of the Solar Logos. That would be the heart of the central spiritual sun. And where is that found? Analogously. Use your law of analogy. Where is the heart of the central spiritual sun found? Yeah, that's exactly it. There it is. Our handy-dandy little map shows it as a blue triangle on the higher level of the cosmic mental plane. Okay. So anyway, the Buddhic permanent atom, the 7 forces of the physical sun, which transmit life impulses from the 7 rays of the solar logoic causal body, which is often called by another name, which is simply heart of the sun. In other words, the soul of our solar logos is the heart of the sun. And the heart of the sun in man is simply our soul nature. Okay. All right, so what do we have here? We have a direct graded chain of transmitting energies. The heart of the central spiritual sun, the sevenfold heart of the physical sun, and the Buddhic devas. 2. The central circle of petals, the astral permanent atom, the heart center within the head, the heart center. Very good line. Very good line of transmission. Now, let's test ourselves on analogy. If the heart center of man, the etheric heart center of man, is located on the second ether. Here it is. Right there. Right there. Heart center. But let's go down to the physical nature. Our etheric heart center is located on the second ether. Then where is the physical heart center of the solar logos? It's just an analogy. Yeah. It would have to be the monadic plane, if this analogy holds. Think of it. In other words, you say, well, I have my etheric nature, okay? Okay, well, most of my chakras are located in the normal etheric level. But my throat center is located on the third ether. And my heart center is located on the second ether. And my head center is located on the first ether. Now, what if there is a correspondence with the solar logos? Then the solar logos' heart center would be located on the second ether. And this is it, the monadic plane. So if the correspondence is correct between man and the solar logos, then this sevenfold physical energy of the physical sun is both etheric and physical. It may not just be dense etheric and dense physical. The whole cosmic physical plane may be considered. Now, I know this is exacting work, and we have to think in somewhat technical terms. But I will persist in this with an occasional joke, just to make sure that you're living. Are we having cake for break? There's some kind of cake for break. Just hang in there and visualize cake. Because you see, that will keep you here for still a few moments, and we'll make this unbearable technical occultism bearable. Anyway, here's this marvelous line from the cosmic higher mental plane all the way down to our heart center. What an amazing progression. And the Buddhic devas are there, and what are they called sometimes? Buddhic devas? What's their name? probably blew everybody away. It coughed directly into the microphone. That's a first. All right. The Agnisurians. The higher Agnisurians, obviously, because the lower Agnisurians are found where? Remember Agnishvatas, Agnisurians, Agnichaitans. See, we're getting near the end of the Cosmic Fire class. I just thought I'd better make sure we can synthesize a few things here. Okay, so they're found on the astral plane, is it not so? And the Agni Chaitans where? Physical, etheric, because many Agni Chaitans are also etheric, and Agnishvatas are mental, aren't they? Aren't they? So, if Agnisurians are found on the astral and Buddhic planes, and Agnishvatas are found on the higher and lower mental, then where are Agni Chaitans found? They're found on the etheric, physical, and on the atmic plane. Now, from another point of view, cosmically considered, just testing your law of analogy, every deva on the cosmic physical plane is really a what? Well, elemental from a very high perspective, yes. But of the three types of devas we're talking about, every deva on the cosmic physical plane from the cosmic perspective is a what? Devas and angels equivalent? Yes. But it's lunar, and it's lunar from the higher perspective, and I guess what I'm fishing for is the word Agni Chaitan. From the cosmic perspective, the cosmic ethers are these four. The physical part is these three, and the Agni Chaitans are both etheric and physical. So, on the cosmic, etheric, physical plane, every deva is an Agni Chaitan with all these different divisions that we call by different names. See, of course, we live in a very little world, which is okay, but one day we will expand our vision to the cosmic perspective, and that's just the beginning, because there are 10 dimensions in cosmos, and we're just talking about dimension number 2 when we go cosmic. Beyond that, so, hang in there. It's a fun ride, and really I think life must be quite wonderful. Sometimes I think that. This Buddhic energy is the sum total of the life force of Vishnu, or the Sun, who is the transmitter and representative of a still greater cosmic deity. So is he saying here, is Vishnu solar systemic and representing a kind of cosmic Vishnu by another name? For instance, DK, who is Varuna? Who is Varuna? The Lord of the astral plane for whom? That's correct so far. For the planetary logos. But there are two higher entities that he compares Varuna to. He says there's the Lord of the astral body of the solar logos, name ungiven. And then there's the Lord of the cosmic astral plane, and whatever astral body is found in that, name ungiven. So that's very interesting. All these beings in the hierarchy of beings exist, And we are just beginning to understand a little bit of what and who they are. All the above serves to demonstrate the oneness of the tiniest unit with the one great informing life and shows the integral beauty of the scheme. Okay, DK, second ray, ray of beauty in relationship. That's one of the names of the second ray. When he's discussing pure reason, he gives you a number of the extra names of the second ray, and they're really quite wonderful, showing the different sides of the second ray. Detailed unity, beauty in relationship. I'll show you. Nice names. If I spell right, I might get it. The ray of the divine pattern, beauty in relationship, detailed unity, attractive coherency, the ray of attractive coherency, many subsidiary names that shed additional light on the nature of this ray. And you know, by a ray name, you may come to recognize yourself. That's what DK says. I give you these ray names so that you can recognize your own resonance or non-resonance with them. So you know where to go for the ray names, don't you? Yes. Yes? Well, what, okay. But, no, okay. Why does it surprise you? Detailed unity, he did say, by the way, but still. Detailed knowledge, yes, that's right. Yeah, I see it. It's both, both. Okay, now, here's the story. Why does it surprise you when the second ray is called the ray of detailed knowledge? Why? I left out another name. The ray of meticulous entirety. Okay, but here's why it surprises you. Because we are used to thinking of a ray as one thing, and we don't think of it in its divided aspects. Now, what he says here, those upon the second ray, as you know, fall into two groups, generally speaking. There are naturally numerous exceptions. Thank you. Okay. I don't know how he does that. But anyway, souls on the wisdom aspect of the second ray go to Shambhala and join the great council in some capacity or other. Such a one was the Buddha. Those on the love aspect of the second ray tread one or other of the various paths, primarily that of the world savior. So he's got wisdom and love. Those in the second group upon the second ray likewise fall into two groups. They follow the way of specialized detail and comprehensive inclusiveness and are the outstanding occultists, and the other group is distinguished by pure love. So we oftentimes forget this third ray aspect of the second ray, thinking only in terms of wisdom or love. But the second aspect itself is divided into two parts. And one looks at the complete detail and how it's unified. And that's why it is possible under that ray, that part of that ray, to achieve what's called pure reason or inclusive reason. Meaning, for everything there's a reason, and there it is. Everything is related in the following way. All the detail in the following way. So there is on the second ray a range all the way from the profoundest simplicity of the first type, of which the Buddha was a great example, saying, why bother with all that knowledge? Here's the essence. That's what his teaching was all about. All the way to someone like Master D.K., whose knowledge of the detail of the sensed whole is extraordinary. And he presents it and hints toward it. Now, it just all depends on the line on which you find yourself, because they all overlap. It's not like it's a mistake to think they are exclusive and don't touch each other. Everything interpenetrates. Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, yes, they are distinct, and they all interpenetrate. The old saying, Brahma and Vishnu are in Shiva, Brahma and Shiva are in Vishnu, Shiva and Vishnu are in Brahma. And he actually says that. It's the numerous exceptions which bother me and make me think that there are 7 choices. But I'm not going to get into too much detail there because, you just go astray. But this is a very important page 518 of the discipleship too, because so many people come to you and they say, well, what's my ray? You don't want to tell them. You want to lead them, but and especially in these groups, there's so many second ray types, and the choices are more than they think. And the choices are quite distinct from each other in certain ways. You wouldn't even think they were on the same ray, but they are. It's the unity factor, of course, that always prevails in the second ray. Okay. So he's just given us this thing about all the way from the cosmic higher mental plane down to our own heart center. So that's the tiniest unit with the one great informing life. That's a huge horizon. It's a comprehensive vista. You know what Alice Bailey said when the Tibetan was dictating to her? Possibilities would loom up before her consciousness, which never were even put in the book. She just had that awe-inspiring sense of what was implicate in the few things he was saying, what the real wisdom was. In other words, a book like this is just filled with seeds, just germs of knowledge, which can blossom into huge vistas. So as D.K. dryly remarks at one point, he says, there are some difficulties in discipleship, but the compensations are adequate. It amuses me. He has, I think, a very dry humor. The life of the greatest cosmic Lord of love pulsates in infinitesimal degree in the heart of his tiniest reflection, holographic universe. And for this reason, the atom man can likewise say, I too am God. His life is mine. Well, already that's a pretty big perception, because so many people are caught in this tribal business. There's God Almighty and I am the worm, It's true to one extent and not true in another. Oh, they say, oh, this is not religion, this is pantheism. Okay, well, an enlightened philosophical pantheism would have the endorsement of HPB. when she rails against all the unphilosophical religions. So I too am God. His life is mine. The least can say that. Then the sacrifice petals, or the energy flowing through them, forces producing activity in the inner tier of petals. Usually when he say inner, it means sacrifice. When he says the word inmost tier, it means the synthesis petals, inmost. Okay. So, the inner tier of petals, the sacrifice petals, and are again similar in nature to those already enumerated, plus a definite stimulation of power in two directions. Well, I can see that in order to get this straight, we really do have to make a map. Who would like to do that? When I think of the hours and hours that you spend in here after class is over, freely pursuing what you wish, then I think of a group service, possibly providing a map for the group of the three types of stimulation. I wonder if there would be anybody who would like to stimulate their sacrifice petals by doing this. I'm not seeing any immediate volunteers, but I know that this will shortly be corrected. Okay. The energies or forces flowing through and thus producing activity in the inner tier of petals are again similar in nature. Okay. One stimulating influence comes from the will aspect of the monad. That's pretty high, isn't it? Do you think DK means what he seems to be saying when on this map the will aspect of the monad is located on the logoic subplane of the monadic plane? Or do you think it's just what happens when you draw a triangle? Anyway, it looks high. So the will aspect of the monad, which is Vulcanian in nature, stimulates the sacrifice petals. And thus, through transmission from the first aspect of the planetary logos, and the other emanates from the sacred bud which veils the jewel. Okay, this is very interesting, because this is what is meant by the idea that the monad is Atma Buddhi. In other words, two factors are very prominent in the monad. One of them creates the jewel, and the other creates the synthesizing petals. So DK discusses the manner in which the synthesizing petals are created. Does anybody remember this? Or any line about how it's done? It's the Buddhic plane. Energy from Buddhi creates the synthesizing petals. So it makes me think that energy from Atma may be involved in the creation of the jewel. Not alone, but certainly possible. You know, and I think, what planet necessarily has to be involved in the creation of the jewel in the lotus? Vulcan. Vulcan must be involved. Because Vulcan, the force of compression, having to do with all hard substances, and especially with the creation of stones and jewels. The mineral kingdom. Fiery stones and living stones. Exactly. Vulcan would have to be involved. So anyway, the sacrifice petals are stimulated by the will aspect of the monad and by the bud which veils the jewel. Now, I've often thought that the monad is a jewel in the crown of the planetary logos. I have reason to believe that the monad itself is a jewel, and that its emanation is what is known as the jewel in the lotus. So Vulcan is involved in both processes. The jewel-like nature of the monad. I wonder if that jewel has 7 facets and a 7-fold radiation. This is a particularly strong vibration because when the inner circle is unfolded, the jewel is revealed, and the 3 veils or sacred petals open successively when the 3 tiers unfold. Well, this is a little problematic, because while we can say that the second tier of petals is completely unfolded by the time the second initiation occurs, we cannot say that when the first initiation unfolds, or that when the first tier of petals is unfolded, the first initiation occurs. We cannot say that, because he specifically tells us that it is the 5th petal which is completely unfolded at the first initiation, and the 6th petal at the second initiation. So, what I like to think about, although this is close, I think, I would say that the 3 veils or sacred petals, look at these names. This is interesting. Let's look at this. Veils, sacred petals, synthesis petals, bud. These are all names for the same thing. The 3 gardens of the jewel. I like to think, and DK corroborates this, that at the first initiation, the first synthesis petal unfolds a little. At the second initiation, the second synthesis petal unfolds, accompanied by further unfoldment of the first. At the third initiation, the third synthesis petal unfolds, accompanied by further unfoldment of the second and the first. At the fourth initiation, what does it say? He doesn't use the word pop. I think he used the word springs. Springs open, revealing the jewel. Yeah. The will aspect of the monad and the sacrifice petals. This means that initiation is ultimately stimulated by the will aspect of the monad. Behind our attempt and the extraordinary exertion required in conscious initiation, the will aspect of the monad is driving it all. So in a way, all of us, even a little bit unconsciously, are being driven by the will aspect of the monad now. Okay. It is thus apparent what numerous energizing agencies awaiting listing by some responsible student are responsible for the motion. That was watermarked. That's why you didn't see it. Are responsible for the motion occultly understood of the egoic lotus. That's what our subject has been. Motion in the causal body. There is the inherent life of the atomic units forming each petal, and the circulatory life of the petal itself, regarding it as an individual unit, which reveals what did he call them? Symbolic keys, something like that. There is likewise the life of the circle of 3 petals, and to this we must add the unified activity of the outer 3 circles, or the blending of knowledge forces absorbed from the personal self, of love forces, which are the natural energies of the solar angel, and of sacrifice forces pouring in from the monad. Thus we have a marvelous aggregation of streams of energies, all representing interior and still greater, because cosmic, energies. So I guess what we have seen here, numerous energies animate the petals and circles of the egoic lotus. And we should have a good idea of what they are. Now, does it make sense that personality is associated with knowledge? It is, after all, the third aspect of divinity, is it not? So personality is knowledge. Soul is love. And monad is sacrifice. I'm really quite amazed when I see how much goes into animating each one of these petals and circles. Finally, he takes us to, I think, the jewel in the lotus. Finally, we have the dynamic force of the jewel at the heart, which is itself the focal point for the life of the planetary logos in 7 ray examples with subrays, and through the planetary logos of other logoi. So, not only is our planetary logos expressing through the jewel, but also other planetary logoi. Think of that for a moment. Inside our own causal body, at this moment, our own planetary God is expressing, and other planetary gods are also expressing. And of course, we shouldn't leave the solar logos out of the picture. Right in ourselves, expressing, I too am God. Okay. Thus, the potentialities latent in the incarnating jiva are stupendous. That's a little different from saying, you miserable sinner, isn't it? I wonder how religion would do if it emphasized this point of view. The potentialities latent in the incarnating jiva are stupendous, and he can become as God, provided he submits to the evolutionary process and does not refrain from being stretched upon the wheel. What an appealing prospect. Of course, you know, it's the wheel of rebirth and it's the wheel of the Dharma. It's not necessarily the rack, as they say. Apparently it's painful because we're being stretched beyond the bounds of matter. Matter has its comfort zone. It likes to remain integrous according to the laws of the first solar system. It's quite happy with that. And here we're introducing all of these expansive possibilities, and matter fights back. So just remember If we want to develop our stupendous latent possibilities, we have to be stretched upon the wheel. The wheel of rebirth, I do believe. And of course, progressing through it rapidly and with determination. Thus, the expansions of consciousness, which will admit an individual point of spiritual life into the counsels and the wisdom of the deity, are no idle promise, but are guaranteed by the very constitution of the vehicle employed and the place in the scheme of the developing point, as the ego is called. Now, I think he's being extremely accurate when he calls lives by the term points. I can find no other word which somehow carries it, describes it so well. Because a point is, and yet it isn't. All the things you can say about the Blessed One, a point is. A point is, and yet it has no dimension. What are you going to say about being? Does it have dimension? Does it have extension? Does it have length, width, height, breadth? All of those are just categories of consciousness, as Kant would tell us. He would say, you perceive all this time-space stuff because of how your perceiver is constructed. It's not real. So a point is a being. It is, and yet it is dimensionless. I find that somehow to be very satisfying. Have you ever tried to reduce yourself to a point? It's interesting, isn't it? How time and space recede as you do that. But it is a meditation. It's a discipline to do that, because so often we perceive ourselves in extension, as if this apparent extension within the field of consciousness is real. But it's not real. And when extension falls away, we are left with the point of being. When does extension fall away? When in the initiatory process does extension fall away? Well, take the eye of the needle, for instance. Know what I mean? What is the kingdom of heaven? In this case, the kingdom of heaven is the fourth degree. So is the big old causal body going to go through the eye of the needle. It's filled with extension. It's filled with the illusion of bulk, of dimension, and all the rest of it. It does have dimension. It has dimension. Causal body can be measured with Maya. By the way, the word Maya means to measure. So when extension disappears, Maya disappears. So at the fourth initiation, you again have the intuition of being a point, of being consciousness. And that's when time and space are really collapsed. At the fourth degree, standing upon the mountain whereon form dies. And that is the Mount of Initiation, poised to enter the non-local Buddhic plane where time and space are not operative as they are in these lower worlds. Naught in time and space can hinder, he says. For every form, being simply an expression of energized life, tends to serve every other form. Stimulation of some kind, the tendency to increase the vibration of contacting streams of energy, the accentuation of the activity of each centralized point as it contacts other points in the general heightening of the vibration through the interplay of those forces. All this sweeps the entire system onto its consummation and to the revelation of the, quote, glory which shall someday be revealed. Apparently, DK has a lot of faith in this, probably because he's seen and he knows what's really happening. All these forces form the aggregate of what is called phohatic life. Where do we find phohatic life? Where is phohat active? Well, in a way, yes, but phohat is cosmic electricity and the entity that is cosmic electricity. So, I would say we will find phohat on the lower 18 cosmic subplanes, namely the realm of cosmic Brahma. In other words, everything below the egoic nature of the solar logos, I think, can rightly be named phohat. Another name for this great being, in this case, is Agni, who is said to be the personality nature of the solar logos. That's one definition of Agni. Okay, so anyway, he's saying all of this interplay is part of cosmic electricity for Haddock life. As the system or the body of the logos is carried forward through the energy of in all of its parts, so is each infinitesimal part speeded on to a similar individual glorification. As group initiation occurs for the great gods, it occurs for each little unit in their life. The many which form the all and the units which constitute the one cannot be differentiated as consummation is achieved. Beautiful thoughts, you know. What he tends to do is present you with some pretty staggering detail, and then he wraps it all up and makes it inspiring and very significant to our own progress. They are merged and lost in the general beatific light. Seems to take us up to the atmic plane, doesn't it? Because the Beatitudes are found on the atmic plane, as it is sometimes called. We can then extend the concept somewhat further and realize the cosmic interplay which is being carried forward. We can picture the cosmic stimulation and intensification which proceeds as constellations form the units of the whole instead of planets and human atoms. It's looking good, huh? Okay. Whole suns with their allied systems in their immensity play the part of atoms. Talk about perspective. Okay, thus some idea may be gained of the unified purpose underlying the turning of the great wheel of the cosmic heaven. Heaven is a very relative term here. It means the higher worlds of cosmos. What is this great wheel? Well, you know, in a way it's the whole universal wheel, which, and I haven't figured this out yet, is said to turn once. One turn, that's all you get. Once what? Soldier? So, Zodiac. 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 Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I have to take off my hearing to hear. Sorry. One turn of the great wheel. One turn only. And then ever a faster turn, it tells us. Thus, some idea may be gained of the unified purpose underlying the turning of the great wheel of the cosmic heaven. It sounds like a galaxy to me, although it goes beyond that. And the working through of the life purposes of those stupendous existences who hold a position in the cosmic hierarchy, similar to that of the one about whom naught may be said. So he takes us to the galaxy, but if you turn here to Cosmic Fire, around page 1085, or 1084, the one wheel turns. One turn alone is made, and every sphere and suns of all degrees follow its course. The night of time is lost in it, and kalpas measure less than seconds in the little day of man. 10 million kalpas pass, and twice 10 million Brahmic cycles, and yet 1 hour of cosmic time is not completed. So that is the, I find from TK, that is the most comprehensive statement he makes about cosmos and its cycle. There is a paradox involved in that statement, but I won't get into it. Suffice it to say, there are big enough wheels that may turn once. But he says the cosmic wheel turns once. Presumably, every universe only once. And how does it expand and contract and turn once at the same time? We have a flea's knowledge of these cosmic things. There is that first ray pulsation factor, but it's just out and in once. Maybe some of the lesser beings more often, but the big one, I assume it's once. It is not possible to give students an adequate idea of the beauty of the egoic lotus when it has reached full unfoldment. The radiance of its color is not here referred to, but the brilliancy of the fires and the rapid scintillation of the ceaselessly moving streams and points of energy, Davic points of energy describing symbolic keys. Each petal pulsates with quivering fire points. Those are all Davic lives, those quivering fire points. And each tier of petals vibrates with life, while at the center glows the jewel, raying forth streams of energy from the center to the periphery of the outermost circle. We'll read more about how this happens, but it's really an extraordinary vision of the consummation that lies before each one of us, if we will only submit to being stretched upon the wheel. Yes, you've got it. Which means, in a way, also submitting oneself to the understanding of cycles and cooperating with those cycles according to the Atmic divine plan. Okay, it's time to take a little break, and we will hopefully finish this section before we have to leave tonight at 11. Or whenever. Okay, very good. Oh my. Okay, webinarians, however many of you are surviving. Some others have joined. Welcome, Andrew. Brett, you're there. Carol from Australia. Eleanor from Slovakia. Eva, Ellen, and Eva both there. Gary Fun, Gary Smith, Jill Waltz, Johanna, Leslie Van, NN. Hi, NN. Oh, you're in twice. All right. Nicholas, Risto, and Susila. Welcome, everybody. Just stay plugged in, and then you won't get cut off before the webinar. You won't get, I'm sorry, maybe you didn't hear me because that was here. I was welcoming everybody. I hope you heard me in the distance. And just stay plugged in, and we have another, after our little break, another 2.5 hours roughly to go, at least 2 hours, let's say 2 hours, and that will be the end of our day, but maybe the beginning of yours. Thanks for joining us, and talk to you soon.